evenings are the hard part, not the days. The evenings, and specifically somewhere between 5 and 7 o'clock. That's the first thing nobody tells you, and I wish somebody had told me, because I spent about 3 months thinking there was something wrong with me. The days were fine, genuinely fine. I was busy, there were things to do, I'd be out or working or sorting something, and then late afternoon would come, and the light would start to go, and there'd be this drop. That's the only way I can describe it. A drop. The house would suddenly feel very quiet in a way it hadn't at 11 in the morning, and I'd notice that nobody was coming home, and that whatever I did next was entirely up to me and would be entirely unremarked upon. And because nobody had warned me, I thought it meant something. I thought it meant I was lonely in some permanent way, or that I'd made a mistake, or that this was simply what the rest of my life was going to feel like. It wasn't. It was 5 o'clock. That's all it was. Once I understood that it was a time of day rather than a fact about my life, I could actually do something about it. I put things there. That's when I walk the dog now, deliberately, every day. That's when I cook properly, rather than eating standing up. Sometimes the radio goes on before I even feel the drop coming, which sounds like a very small thing, and is in fact the single most effective thing I've ever done about it. So if you're in your first year and you're finding the late afternoon strangely heavy, you're not broken, and it's not permanent. It's a slot in the day that used to have something in it, and you can put something else there. Hi, by the way, come in, sit down, here's what today is. I've been on my own a long time now, and I've been thinking about that first year, the genuinely disorienting one, and about all the things that surprised me because nobody had said them out loud. Not the practical things. I've done plenty of videos about the practical things. These are the other ones, the 8 things I wish somebody had sat me down and told me. And I'll be honest, including about the one that took me years to admit. Number 2. The silence changes character, and then it changes again. At first the quiet is loud. That's the only way to put it. You notice every sound the house makes. The pipes, the fridge, the settling, because there's nothing else covering them, and it feels like absence, like a thing that's missing, and what nobody tells you is that this passes, and then reverses. Somewhere around the 9th or 10th month for me, the quiet stopped being absence, and became a thing I actively liked. Now I notice it when I've had people staying, and they leave, and the house goes quiet again, and my shoulders come down. That's a genuine transition, and I don't think you can rush it, but knowing it's coming helps enormously, because in month 2 you assume this is how it stays forever. One practical thing that helped, I stopped filling the silence with the television all evening, and started using the radio instead, particularly people talking. Voices in the house, but not a screen I was staring at. It sounds trivial. It made a real difference in the first winter. Number 3. You will forget how to cook for one, and it takes ages. Everyone tells you about the emotional side. Nobody tells you about the practical embarrassment of standing in a supermarket, unable to work out how much food a single person needs. I threw away an astonishing amount of food that first year. Bags of salad turned to slime. Half a loaf of bread going green every week. I'd buy the family pack because I'd always bought the family pack, and then a third of it went in the bin, and I'd feel wasteful and slightly foolish, and then do exactly the same thing the following week. It took me the better part of a year to recalibrate. And the fixes turned out to be very small. Buy loose vegetables one at a time instead of in bags. Ask at the counter for one portion. Use the freezer as a portioning system rather than a graveyard. Buy the smaller packet even though it's more per pound, because the cheaper one goes in the bin. But the real thing I'd say is, don't take it as a sign of anything. It's not a moral failing, and it's not evidence that you can't look after yourself. Your entire shopping instinct was calibrated for a different household, and instincts take about a year to move. Number 4. Everything takes longer, and there's nobody to hand it to. This is the one that genuinely blindsided me, and it's not about big jobs. It's that every single small task is now yours, and they don't feel like much individually. The bins, the post, the bulb that's gone, the thing that needs a phone call, the appointment that has to be made. And in a household of two, some invisible portion of those was being absorbed by somebody else, and you never counted them because you never had to. Now they're all yours. All of them. And the exhaustion that produces isn't the exhaustion of hard work, it's the exhaustion of carrying, of holding the whole list in your head all the time because nobody else is holding any of it. I remember a Tuesday in that first year where nothing happened at all, and by 9 in the evening I was completely wrung out and couldn't have told you what I'd done. That's what that was. What fixed it, eventually, was getting things out of my head and onto paper. One running list, 1 hour a week to look at everything, routines that meant certain things happened automatically, without a decision. But in the first year I hadn't worked any of that out, and I just thought I was tiring easily. Number 5. People stop inviting you, and it's mostly not personal. This one stings, and I'm going to say it plainly because I think people need to hear it said without flinching. The invitations thin out. Some of it is that couples socialize with couples. That's a real pattern, and it's not malice, it's just how people arrange dinner tables. Some of it is that the people who used to invite you were honestly closer to the other half of your household. And some of it is that people genuinely don't know what to say to you, so they say nothing, and then a bit more time passes and it becomes awkward, and then they say nothing for good. Here's what I'd tell my first-year self. Almost none of that is about your worth, and a good deal of it can be reversed by you being the one who reaches out first. Which is unfair. I'm not going to pretend it isn't unfair. You're the one going through the upheaval, and you're also the one who has to do the inviting. But it works, and being right about the unfairness doesn't get anybody round for coffee. I started doing one small deliberate thing a week. Ring one person. Suggest one coffee. Just one. And several friendships I have now would absolutely have faded without it. Number 6. You'll get very good at things you never wanted to be good at. I now know where my water shutoff is, how to reset a breaker, what the warning lights in my car mean, and roughly what a plumber ought to charge. None of that was ambition, it was necessity, one small crisis at a time. And what nobody tells you is that this is where the confidence actually comes from. Not from being told you're strong. People will tell you that constantly in the first year, and it lands like nothing. From doing something you didn't think you could do, and finding the house still standing afterward. The first thing I fixed by myself in this house was a running toilet, which is not an achievement by any standard, and I was so pleased with myself I told 3 people. And I'd say that's the correct amount of pleased. Because it wasn't about the toilet, it was the first bit of evidence that I could handle the machine I was living in. So when you sort something out in your first year, however small, let yourself be pleased about it. That's not vanity. That's how the fear actually goes away, one bit of evidence at a time. Number 7. You'll start doing things exactly your way, and it'll feel odd before it feels good. Small things at first. Eating at the wrong time. Going to bed at 9 because you feel like it. Leaving the washing up until morning because who's going to say anything? Playing the same album 4 times. And in the first year, this feels slightly transgressive. That's the honest word for it. Like you're getting away with something, or being a bit slovenly, or letting standards slip. I remember eating cereal for supper and feeling faintly guilty about it. On my own, at my own table, at 50-something years old. What nobody tells you is that this turns into one of the genuine pleasures of the thing. Not immediately, it takes a while for the invisible audience to leave, but at some point you stop asking, would this be acceptable, and simply do what suits you, and the relief in that is enormous. Just watch the edge of it. There's a difference between eating what you like, at whatever hour, and quietly stopping looking after yourself. I'd say the test is, are you doing it because you want to, or because you've stopped thinking it matters? The first is freedom. The second is worth catching early. Number 8. The first year is not the shape of the rest of it. This is the one I'd most want to say, and it's the reason I made this video at all. Everything in your first year is happening while you're still adjusting, still grieving whatever brought you here, still running on habits built for a different life. Of course it feels difficult. You are doing something unfamiliar with equipment calibrated for something else. And what I'd want you to know is that almost nothing about that first year is a reliable preview. The evenings got easier. The silence turned into something I like. The cooking sorted itself out. The confidence arrived, slowly, out of a series of very small, unglamorous competencies. And the loneliness, which was real, I'm not going to pretend it wasn't, turned into something quite different, which is a strong preference for my own company that occasionally needs interrupting on purpose. I'm not going to tell you it becomes wonderful for everybody because I don't know your life, and that would be a cheap thing to say. What I will tell you is that it changes, and that judging the whole thing by month 4 is like judging a house by the state of it during the building work. The one I still find hard, I said I'd be honest, being ill is still the hard one, not the practical side. I've sorted the practical side. I've got the soup and the thermometer and the neighbor who knows. It's that when you feel genuinely rotten, there's still nobody to bring you a cup of tea. And I've made my peace with that, mostly, and I'd still rather live this way than the alternative I had. But I'm not going to stand here and tell you every part of this gets easy, because that one hasn't, and I'd be lying. So that's 8. The evenings drop, the silence changes, the cooking takes a year to recalibrate, the small jobs are heavier than they look, the invitations thin out, the competence arrives sideways, doing it your own way feels odd before it feels good, and the first year isn't the shape of the rest. And here's what I'd say to anyone in the middle of it right now. The thing that made my first year hardest wasn't any of the individual difficulties. It was that I thought each one meant something about my future. Bad evening in November? This is my life now. Threw away a bag of spinach? I can't even look after myself. Nobody rang all weekend. Nobody's going to. None of that was true. They were just the ordinary friction of learning something new, and I was reading them as verdicts. So if you're in it, please don't take month 4 as evidence of anything. Take it as month 4. That's all it is. And most of what feels permanent right now genuinely isn't. Now I'd really like to hear from those of you who've been through it. What's the thing nobody told you about that first year? Or the thing you'd say to somebody who's 3 months in tonight? Put it in the comments, because I promise you there is someone reading this at 11 at night in their first winter alone, and what you write will land better than anything I've said. And if you like this kind of honest talk about living on your own, you're very welcome here. Give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to stay, and I'll see you next time. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now.